when I think of exemplary clarity and analysis, I think of my guest. He is Senior Counsel Martin Daly. Mr. Daly, good morning to you, sir.
Morning, Rennie.
It is always good to have you here. Thank you so much. I'm looking at your column this morning. You said that tone deaf, and I like the distinction in music. Tone deaf means you cannot tell the difference between this note and that note, but tone deaf in the political sense is wider, it's broader. It means that people are not listening to the electorate. We are talking about the local elections just passed on there. Before I go into the angst, the disquiet exhibited or made manifest by the Prime Minister at the inaccuracy of numbers coming before him, let us just deal with your column this morning in the Express, and you dealing specifically with the local elections. You said that people are tone deaf. I gather you were referring to those who are in the arena of politics. Clarify, if you will, sir.
Yes, I am referring to, on this occasion, to the people in the arena of politics. Because no matter how you spin and dice the figures, the fact is that you had a lower than usually low turnout, and in some particular areas, the turnout was pitiful. So while it might have been, it was wrong to say the overall turnout was 17%. The fact is it was below, it was 21.8% and below in certain areas. 34% only comes about because in other areas where the constituents perhaps were more loyal, you got high figures. But the bottom line is, the drop, however small the drop is in the overall turnout, in my view, that is where the significance of these voting figures lie. And all I'm trying to say is, while each side is trying to say, I want this, I want that, by reference to rules that are not really the rules by how a corporation is won, are being delusional. People are unhappy, and that is recognized by all commentators, regardless of their perceived prejudices or otherwise. And therefore, it is incumbent on the two main political parties, as I say in the column, to do some contemplation. What is going on? Why is this general disaffection in the country? Why do people feel the system isn't working? And apparently, they can't hear our voices that say the system is not working. So that's the overall point I'm trying to make in my column today.
The point is very well made, and you go on to state exactly what may be the problem that's contributing to this tone deafness, which is the need to go and do spin. You know, people do spin either when they're being intellectually dishonest or because they are, in fact, as you proffer, just tone deaf.
Yeah, because it's all about winning, and of course people are in politics to win. But there are some other considerations besides winning, and the country can't be winning when we have these gross events of domestic violence. When you can kill with impunity, the country can't be winning, and that's much more important than who shaved off a few votes there, who gained a few votes there, who crossed the floor here. There are all these macro issues that are not being there's no plan to address them, and that is why the country is unhappy and will not be bothered unless pushed by some extraneous consideration to vote.
2013, the turnout was 43.6. This year, as confirmed by the Election and Boundaries Commission, 34.3. You're looking really at a full 9 points down. The question is this: is it only a case of politicians being tone deaf for this low turnout, or is it also equally a case that folks not understanding, one, the role of the corporations, understanding the importance of local elections, because that's what I got when I asked a lot of folks, why did you not vote? The question was, it's not going to make a difference. And I wonder, even though the PNM, the present administration, did offer what they would like, where they would like to see the corporations go as far as collecting, property taxes and money and so on. Is it a case that the electorate is not understanding, one, the functions, the relevance, and or the vision of these corporations?
But are they relevant in their present form? Are they not overly dependent on the central government to release funds?
Yes.
What is their area of decision making? If, for example, you need a bridge urgently in Matlot because it's cut off,
yes.
If I am a corporation, do I have to go to the central government, make an application, lobby to get this bridge? Should I not have the power subject to what's in my budget to do it without reference to the central government because it's a uniquely local problem, uniquely local to northeast Trinidad. And I think that's part of the problem. People don't see the importance of why is it relevant to go and vote for who my councillor is, because all they can say when there is a problem is I wrote to the Minister of Works, I wrote to the Minister of Education, I gave you a letter. They don't seem to have the power to get results on their own or to do things on their own, and that is obviously part of the particular disenchantment with local government elections. And if the PNM have any sense, this promise that they made that they're going to reform local government to give the corporations more power and more decision making and more power to act on their own, they should do it as quickly as possible.
Senior Counsel Martin Daly is the voice you're hearing. If you go to page 12 of the Express newspaper, you will see tone deaf. It is that tone deafness that we're taking a little time to understand here, because if in fact people don't understand what they are voting for, they will not vote, and the numbers, the turnout will continue to go down. And that is a very good point, because I've heard people ask the question, what is the purpose of these local elections if, in fact, as you said, you have to go to the central government to do this? And what happens in my area, for instance, if my corporation is won by the opposition and they have to go to the governing party in order to get the money to take care of my community? Then it's a case of fair play, and fair play does not always happen in politics, sir.
Well, that's exactly the point. But you see, if you have sensible local government reform, you had a very interesting guest there, Ozzy Warwick, talking about a lot of structural things and macro issues. And that's exactly the point. The issue is, if the people in a particular corporation prefer political party X, then they should not be placed in a conflicted position of having to go to the party that they didn't support, or the central government comprised of the party they didn't support, to get funds to fix something in their area. And it's all about, it's just another example of the dependency syndrome. It's about releasing people, and in this case, whole corporations or whole communities, from the dependency syndrome.
I sort of tried to make sense with what I even understand of what is the plan for local government, and you can make this clear for me, because I am locked into, if you collect property taxes and you use that as a primary revenue stream to the corporations for them to use it to fix their specific areas. In areas where the population is either small or the value of property is all the way down, and they're collecting this money, they have to come back to you, because this is not going to carry the day.
And that is why, quite apart from whatever taxes you may permit an area to collect, there must be some sensible allocation which they control for year by year to deal with their problems. How is property tax? I had the pleasure when I was younger of hiking to Madamas and hiking to Paria. What property taxes you're going to get by the Madamas River that's going to be sufficient to help you build a bridge in an area like that? And the same with Matlot. What property taxes you're going to get there? You're going to collect property tax from a pumpkin patch or some other agriculture patch. It doesn't make any sense. You have to decide whether it is on the basis of head count, whether it is on the basis of a combination of head count and square footage of the corporation area. You have to decide on some transparent means of saying corporation X gets Y dollars next year on the following basis. And then it is open to the corporation now to say, if I have a budget of X, because I'm a flood-prone area, I am going to reserve a significant part of my budget for flood relief. You don't have that problem in wherever, some well-heeled area. You don't have that problem in a well-heeled area. I have the problem. I know the problem. And I must be free to decide what proportion of the funds I'm going to reserve for flood relief, because I'm a flood-prone area. And some other corporation with tower blocks of apartments may not have that problem, and the requirements of a corporation there might be different. They might have to have recycling modes to recycle the champagne bottles. It's just what goes on in a particular area, and it has to be the budget of each corporation has to be tailored to what are the requirements of the area.
there was a situation that involved the ILP. I'll get to that in a moment. I just wanted to finish with one line as it relates to your column right now. That's basically the essence of what we're talking about here. With regards to overall results, they hardly constitute a comprehensive PNM licking, which is what the Prime Minister said would happen, of the UNC. It is also equally delusional, you say, to say that the elections demonstrate a turning of the tide in favor of the UNC.
But that's a key statement in the column, and the Express have highlighted it in the full quote. That's the key statement. Both sides are being delusional in trying to dissect these results in minute terms without understanding the overall problem, which is that people are fed up.
Without choosing to address it, I really don't think anyone has not seen it. I mean, if you have a turnout, and you know, very unscientifically, I speak to people. Why are you not voting? And they are all saying, for what? What's the sense? I mean, what's the point?
But Rennie, take a simple example. When I keep talking, whenever you interview me, I talk about our infrastructural problems.
Yes.
And I make it plain I'm not only talking about roads and bridges and buildings. We have social infrastructure problems. Yes. One of the most telling things in the media this weekend is that one of the representatives of Tobago talks about her own experience with the police when she went to report a peeping Tom incident and how unsatisfactory the whole thing was. And she's inside the government, and she's has a ministerial portfolio of some kind, and she's inside of the government. And you juxtapose that with the fact that somebody seriously tried to say that a child that was brutalized to death died because she had French fries. Now, my point is, what is the policy to deal with, to reduce the incidence of domestic violence, whether between adults or between adults and children? And there's a problem on all sides, and a minister within the government is saying, when I went to the police, I shouldn't use speaker. When I went to the police, their response was wholly unsatisfactory. Now, what is to be done about that? Is there to be a special domestic violence unit? Is the government to put more money into the NGOs who are doing halfway houses and safe houses? Those are the issues. The issue is not about whether you got 2 more votes in Tobago East and you got in Tobago West. That's a perfect example of a structural problem, a social structural problem that's not being addressed.
Among many other areas that not being addressed. 10:45 is the time. Senior Counsel Martin Daly is my guest. As aforementioned, his column is there dealing exactly what we're talking about. It is a very, very interesting, enlightening read. Urge our listeners to do that. It should also be noted, sir, in the tightly fought race, I mean, I understand the structural problems we're talking about, but let's just for a moment look at what is. It should be noted that in the tightly fought race in Sangre Grande, the National Solidarity Assembly effectively split the vote last time, and this time we are looking at a situation that may call for some reform additionally, because we have a tied situation in Sangre Grande. The PNM chairman, Franklin Khan, declared a victory in Sangre Grande despite both parties winning an equal number of seats. Now, he said the party won the popular vote as well as it has incumbency. Is there something? You chuckled already, so I think you already spoke to his interpretation.
Well, if the popular vote is a victory, then he better be careful, because if the EBC are right, the UNC won the popular vote, so they won the election then. I mean, that is just so nitpicking, to try and justify these things. And then, well, we all know about incumbency because we had that experience when we had the 1818 tie.
Yes.
And Mr. Pandey's incumbency didn't do him a lot of good. So maybe at that time they should have told Mr. Pandey, you take the government because you're the incumbent. These things are so inconsistent and irrational and such knee-jerk reactions to the problem of a tie. And they also got 2 older men each.
I know I was advised that the only time I should go to the bar is when I'm ordering a drink. But
if you can afford one and if your rum is genuine.
You see, that Angostura thing is a whole different revolution.
Well, it look like they're selling babash too.
But that's really what it is, isn't it? You take something you put in.
We don't know.
Yeah, that is going to be interesting. I am curious, just to stay with Sangre Grande just for a moment, Senior Counsel. Right now, if one party or the other won, I think I extract from what you were saying, this is only for bragging rights, because it really means nothing.
Well, it's not a win at all. It is what it says it is. It's a draw. It's a tie. And apparently, by operation of law, the chairman who is in his seat cannot be removed because there are not sufficient votes to remove him. And then if he has both an original vote and a casting vote, then technically you have control. But why are you going to have an election if you're going to fight it on the basis of control rather than what the people voted for? They voted for a tie, and both sides must now get together and figure out how they're going to resolve the tie. Are they going to have a rotating chairmanship? What are they going to do? They must solve the problem, not throw it back at us.
At the end of the day.
For God's sake, go to court over this, and by the time the court deals with the matter, it'll be time for not because I'm criticizing courts, it's just inevitable. Not that I'm criticizing the courts on this occasion. I have other criticisms of the court. But it is inevitable, even if it's done in 2 years, which is a record. Then you'll be halfway through the term, and we keep running to the courthouse to try and solve, people problems.
The infrastructural reform that everyone would concur with you on, how do we go about this? We go about this a combination of policy and having town hall meetings sort of thing to liaise with constituents to find a solution to this. How would you suggest we go about it? Because we must go about it.
Sorry, I beg your pardon.
I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead. We must go about it.
Of course, both of those. You have to have policy, and then you have to have feedback as to whether the policy is working in terms of town hall meetings. So to give 2 examples, there should be a policy that every regional corporation gets an allocation of X in the budget. You have to work out the formula on which you're making that allocation. And once the councillors in the area have that allocation, they can then decide what are my priorities. Recycling garbage, in terms of plastic, paper, and other waste, is my priority. Flood relief, what is my priority for this area? And then the people in the area can see whether the funds, which has been given by the central government in addition to any other local taxes that they might collect, whether those councillors are using it properly. And then you can have a situation where, regardless of the national trend in a vote, some particular corporation may buck the trend because they don't believe that the councillors in that area spent the funds wisely, or that they got value for money, or they got their problems relieved. But you have to admit you have a problem in order to solve it. Now, when it comes to this domestic violence business, we have to accept that we are in a woeful situation. But we've had politicians saying, well, if you take the domestic violence figures out, the murder is not so bad. If you take the drug-related out, the murder is not so bad. So what, you're not going to deal with the problem? You simply say, well, it's kind of an exception. And therefore, this whole question of how domestic violence complaints must be dealt with. There's a whole protocol and a whole need for having some serious policy about that. So if somebody gets a report that a child's hand is broken or a child is inexplicably bruised, there must be somebody to go immediately and investigate that before it ends in disaster.
There is something here that I always find interesting, and you just referred to it, Senior Counsel. The question of deciding to take a peg out of the tangerine without looking at the whole, because if you take domestic violence, that is related to a whole social commitment. If you take if you take crime, it is connected to a social disconnect, a broken contract, which is to provide people with alternatives. At the end of the day, the whole picture must be approached. And the question I have for you, sir, is from your experience here, do you see an understanding, first of all, if you agree, and if you do you see a willingness to confront these things, and can it be done at a time when money is on the decline, that is revenue?
But of course, well, several questions there. First of all, my position is there is no will to deal with these things. The only thing we do is say, well, it's not really so bad, or we really not so bad for X or Y reason. The will is lacking because there's a basic lack of concern about how the country is to move to behaving in a more civilized fashion in relation to a number of these things. So I do believe that the will is lacking. And also we keep trying to pretend that this is paradise, and this whole paradise, Trinidad is a paradise. We have good carnival on 6 July. That whole thing is preventing us from moving forward to face some very real problems. I'm not running down my country. I love living here. But the fact is, we can't be in denial about certain things in pursuit of this idea that we are paradise and that God is a Trinidad, and that's not going to work. And the population are beginning to realize more and more that these are problems that have to be admitted to. You have to admit to the problem and then decide how you're going to deal with it. And people are now understanding that whether it's RAM or MPM, to quote a Daly calypso, these problems are not being addressed. And that is the reason people are disappointed and upset.
Let me quote another calypso, because you are not only the ultimate, from what I hear, pan enthusiast, but you are into the culture. Let's take Valentino. He said the same thing you just said. He said, I cannot agree with my own chorus. When they sing Trinidad, that's one of those classic situations. But at the end of the day, we've got to find the right people. We've got to find people with a commitment to this, because I've said for a long time, there is a vision thing. You don't achieve everything you want to, but there must be a vision, one articulated and explained to people to make them feel that they have a stake in this. What is the thing we know? If you don't own anything now, if you never owned anything, don't own anything, and it doesn't look as though you will ever own anything, you're not going to care about anything.
Well, that is right. And if you don't feel you can get fair play, and it's interesting that you bring up Brother Valentino, because, of course, all this spinning to try and say the election means this, the election means that, shows the wisdom of Valentino. Life is a stage, it's a role they play in. They're not really doing anything in local government, they're coasting a role. And Brother Valentino has a whole song about life is a stage, all them doctors and lawyers, and I accept what he's saying about the lawyers.
There's a role to play. Not only that, the dogs are barking and they're indeed coming,
That's right. That's right.
Martin Daly, it is so good to have you here. I do want to close down on one area, reminding our listeners, go ahead and look at the column. The column is called Tone Deaf. It's a very, very interesting column. It's parts of what we only touched the surface here as to the issue of local elections. And there's a lot more to talk about with this, but particularly as it relates to the infrastructural needs. There is a problem with crime, and for some reason or the other, it seems as though we are hearing more and more arrests being made, but it is not getting safer. Is it that it must get worse before it gets better from your vantage?
But of course it's going to get worse, because there again, we are not admitting that we have reached a very dangerous intersection of politics, big business, and two illicit trades. And until we admit that we have reached that dangerous intersection, and try to divide the roads at that intersection, of course it's going to get worse, because of course you will have two fours. And by the way, can I give this serious plug?
Please.
Read my column is fine, but I want everybody to go and read what Miss Ayanna Webster Royce said about her peeping Tom experience and how unsatisfactory it was. And the whole country, regardless of RAM, PNM, DLP, whatever, should be saying, look at what this member of parliament is saying, and how are we going to tackle this problem?
Well taken.
My passion is showing.
and I can easily understand it. Senior Counsel Martin Daly, again, always good, always elucidating to have you here. Today being no exception. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this morning.
Thank you for having me, Rennie. Have a good morning. Good morning to all your listeners. I hope they have a safe day.
And we hope that you too, and you have a great week ahead.